Listen, I'm about to share something with you that could completely change your financial future. And I'm not being dramatic here. What's happening tomorrow isn't just another market event. It's the catalyst that XRP holders have been waiting for. And most people have absolutely no idea what's coming. I've been tracking XRP for years now, and I've never seen the stars align like this before. Tomorrow we're getting a Federal Reserve meeting that has a 96% chance of delivering rate cuts, and simultaneously, we're sitting on the edge of the first XRP spot ETF launch. But here's what nobody is talking about. The data I'm seeing right now suggests we're about to witness one of the most explosive moves in XRP's history. Before I dive into this, I need you to understand something. The information I'm about to share isn't theory or speculation. This is based on real market data, actual exchange flows, and federal policy changes that are happening, whether you're paying attention or not. The question isn't whether this move is coming, it's whether you'll be positioned for it when it hits. So let me start with tomorrow's Federal Reserve meeting. Because this single event could trigger a chain reaction that sends XRP into price discovery mode. Right now, we're looking at a 96% probability of rate cuts. Now, I've been wrong about this before. I predicted rate cuts at the last two meetings and we didn't get them. But this time is different, and here's why. The Federal Reserve has already changed their policy framework to allow for rate cuts targeting a variable inflation rate instead of the fixed 2% target they've been stuck on. This is huge because it gives them the flexibility they need to actually cut rates without looking like they're abandoning their mandate. On top of that, we've got political pressure building, and everything is pointing toward this being the meeting where they finally pull the trigger. But here's what most people don't understand about why this matters for XRP. Right now, we have a record amount of money sitting in money market funds. Literally trillions of dollars just sitting there earning 4.5% to 5% guaranteed returns from the government. If you've got serious money, why would you take any risk when you can get paid 5% to do absolutely nothing? This is exactly what's been holding back risk assets like cryptocurrencies. All that institutional money, all those high net worth individuals, they've been parking their cash in these risk-free, government-backed money market accounts. But when rates get cut tomorrow, that entire dynamic changes overnight. Think about it. If rates drop to 2.5% or 3%, suddenly that guaranteed government return doesn't look so attractive anymore. All that money that's been sitting on the sidelines is going to need to find a new home. And historically, a massive portion of it flows directly into risk assets. Stocks, commodities, real estate, and yes, cryptocurrencies. This is why Bitcoin exploded during the last low interest rate environment. And it's why XRP is positioned for an even bigger move this time around. But here's the thing that gets me really excited. XRP has been performing incredibly well, even during this high interest rate environment. We've been fighting against the macro headwinds this entire time, and XRP has still managed to show strength. Just imagine what happens when the macro environment actually starts working in our favor instead of against us. When that institutional money starts flowing into crypto, XRP isn't just going to benefit. It's going to be one of the primary beneficiaries because of its unique position in the market. But the rate cut is just the beginning. What's happening on the exchanges right now is absolutely mind-blowing, and it's telling us that smart money is already positioning for what's coming. I've been tracking the XRP holdings on major exchanges, and what I'm seeing is unprecedented. On Coinbase alone, we've seen almost a 90% decline in XRP holdings over the past 90 days. Let me repeat that. A 90% decline in just 3 months. This isn't normal market activity. This is preparation for something big. When you see XRP getting pulled off exchanges at this rate, it tells you two things. First, people are not planning to sell anytime soon. You don't move your coins off an exchange if you're looking to trade them. Second, there's serious institutional accumulation happening behind the scenes. This kind of exchange drain typically happens right before major price moves. The supply available for trading gets smaller and smaller, while demand keeps increasing. It's basic economics. When supply contracts and demand remains constant or increases, price has to move up. But what's driving this massive accumulation? The answer is the XRP Spot ETF that's launching this week. We don't have an exact date yet, but all indications point to either tomorrow or Thursday. I don't think they'll launch it on a Friday. That would be terrible timing for maximum impact. The initial estimates for inflows into these XRP ETFs are around $8 billion in the first year alone. Now, when you run those numbers through the market cap multiplier effect, we're looking at XRP prices easily hitting double digits. That's not hopium, that's mathematics. But here's what makes this even more compelling. The smart money knows these ETFs are coming, and they're not waiting for the official launch to start accumulating. They're buying XRP directly off the exchanges right now while the price is still compressed, because they know that once these ETFs go live and start buying, the available supply is going to dry up fast. Looking at the technical picture, XRP has been in this tight consolidation pattern since July, and it's coiling up like a spring ready to explode. You can see the highs getting lower and the lows getting higher. This is textbook accumulation behavior. The price is getting compressed tighter and tighter, and when it finally breaks out, the move is going to be violent. What's really fascinating is the shift I'm seeing in market sentiment. For years, the crypto space was dominated by Bitcoin maximalists who dismissed everything else as scams or worthless tokens. But that narrative is cracking, and I'm seeing prominent Bitcoin advocates starting to acknowledge XRP's legitimacy. I saw a podcast just last night where Bitcoin maximalists were openly discussing why they're becoming bullish on XRP. This is unprecedented, and it tells you that the institutional mindset is evolving. These aren't retail investors making emotional decisions. These are sophisticated market participants who analyze fundamentals, utility, and real-world adoption. And that's exactly why XRP is resonating with traditional finance professionals. When someone comes from the world of stocks and bonds, they don't just buy something because they like the name or the story. They look at the business model, the market opportunity, the competitive advantages, and the execution ability of the team. XRP checks all these boxes in ways that most cryptocurrencies simply don't. It has real utility in cross-border payments. It's being adopted by actual financial institutions. It has regulatory clarity in major markets, and it's backed by a company with a proven track record of execution. This is why we're seeing such strong institutional interest even before the ETFs launch. Traditional finance professionals can build an investment thesis around XRP using the same frameworks they use for any other asset class. They can calculate addressable market sizes, analyze competitive positioning, and evaluate growth trajectories. But here's what's keeping me up at night with excitement. We're still in the very early stages of this transition. If you look at the XRP rich list, there's still a tiny percentage of people who truly understand what's happening here. We're not dealing with mass adoption yet. We're not seeing retail FOMO. We're in that sweet spot where institutional money is starting to flow in, but retail awareness is still relatively low. This creates an incredible opportunity for anyone who's paying attention right now. The institutional buying is providing a floor and driving accumulation, but we haven't hit the mainstream awareness phase that typically drives parabolic price moves. Think about it. When these XRP ETFs launch and start advertising, when Ripple potentially goes public, when major banks start announcing XRP adoption for their payment rails, that's when this goes from institutional accumulation to mainstream adoption. And by then, The price you see today is going to look like an absolute gift. The data I'm tracking suggests we're less than a year away from XRP going truly mainstream. The ETFs are just the beginning. Once these products prove successful and start generating real returns, we're going to see copycat products, increased marketing spend, and broader financial advisor adoption. But let me bring this back to tomorrow specifically, because while the long-term picture is incredible, there's a very real chance that tomorrow's Federal Reserve decision triggers the beginning of this next major leg up. If we get the rate cut that's being priced in, and if the XRP ETF launches this week as expected, we could be looking at a perfect storm of catalysts hitting simultaneously. Lower interest rates pushing institutional money toward risk assets, combined with a new regulated product that makes XRP accessible to every brokerage account in America. The timing couldn't be better from a macro perspective either. We're not dealing with the kind of speculative excess that typically marks market tops. There's no mass hysteria, no crazy valuations in the broader crypto market, no obvious bubbles that need to pop first. Instead, we're seeing methodical institutional accumulation, improving regulatory clarity, increasing real-world adoption, and macro policies that are shifting in favor of risk assets. This is the kind of setup that creates sustainable bull markets rather than short-term speculative bubbles. Now, I want to be transparent about potential risks because no investment thesis is complete without considering what could go wrong. The main risk I see is some kind of systemic crypto market shock that creates broad-based selling pressure. But when I look at the current landscape, I don't see obvious candidates for that kind of systemic risk. Bitcoin is at healthy levels where leveraged positions aren't at dangerous extremes. The DeFi sector has matured and isn't showing signs of the kind of speculation that led to previous blowups. There might be some pressure on certain yield-based DeFi protocols when interest rates come down, since many of them are just passing through money market rates, but those impacts would be relatively contained and wouldn't create the kind of systemic risk that could derail a broader crypto bull market. The more likely scenario is that lower interest rates become a net positive for the entire crypto sector, with XRP positioned to capture a disproportionate share of the institutional money flows because of its regulatory clarity and real-world utility. What really excites me about XRP's positioning right now is that it's not dependent on any single catalyst. Even if the ETF launch gets delayed, we still have the interest rate environment shifting in our favor. Even if rate cuts don't happen tomorrow, we still have increasing institutional adoption and improving regulatory clarity. But when you combine all these factors together, the rate cuts, the ETF launches, the exchange drains, the institutional accumulation, the technical setup, you get a convergence of bullish catalysts that rarely happens in financial markets. This is the kind of setup that creates generational wealth for people who are positioned correctly before the move happens. And based on everything I'm seeing, that move could start as early as tomorrow. The exchange data shows that smart money is already positioning. The technical charts show that XRP is coiled and ready to break out. The macro environment is shifting in favor of risk assets. The regulatory landscape is becoming clearer. New products are launching that will dramatically increase accessibility. Every single piece of the puzzle is falling into place, and most people are completely unaware of what's building beneath the surface. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice, but I am someone who's been tracking these markets for years, and I've learned to recognize when multiple bullish catalysts are aligning simultaneously. What I'm seeing right now with XRP is the kind of setup that I've only seen a handful of times in my career. The question isn't whether this move is coming, all the data points in the same direction. The question is whether you're going to be positioned for it when it happens, or whether you're going to be one of the people who realizes what was happening after the opportunity has already passed. Tomorrow's Federal Reserve meeting could be the catalyst that starts this next leg up. The XRP ETF launch could be the catalyst that brings institutional money flooding in. The exchange drains could create a supply shock that sends prices into price discovery mode, or it could be some combination of all these factors hitting at once, creating the kind of perfect storm that generates life-changing returns for people who saw it coming. What I know for certain is that the XRP I'm seeing today, with its regulatory clarity, institutional adoption, real-world utility, and positioning in the global financial system, is not the same asset that most people think they understand. This isn't a speculative cryptocurrency hoping to find a use case. This is a foundational piece of the new financial infrastructure that's being built right now, and the market is finally starting to recognize that distinction. The next 12 months are going to be absolutely critical for XRP's trajectory, but the next few days could determine whether you're positioned for what's coming or watching from the sidelines. Tomorrow's Federal Reserve decision isn't just another policy meeting. It's potentially the catalyst that unlocks years of pent-up institutional demand for risk assets like XRP. Combined with the ETF launches and the supply dynamics we're seeing on exchanges, we could be looking at the beginning of a move that makes previous XRP rallies look small by comparison. I've shared everything I'm seeing in the data, everything that has me convinced that XRP is setting up for something historic. The institutional accumulation, the exchange drains, the macro catalysts, the new products launching, the regulatory clarity, it's all pointing in the same direction. The opportunity is there for anyone willing to do the research and understand what's really happening beneath the surface. But opportunities like this don't wait for everyone to figure it out. By the time it's obvious to everyone, the biggest gains have already been captured by the people who saw it coming. Tomorrow could be the day everything changes for XRP. Are you ready for it?